Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's Wednesday lunchtime reflection from this church of St Peter Mancroft in the heart of Norwich. My name's Gill Persicke, and I'm one of the lay ministers here. If you're wanting to look around the church, please do continue exactly what you're doing. Now, it's come to my attention that cats are not mentioned in Scripture, except for one tiny reference in the Apocrypha. So, I want to address this great injustice. My subject today is the religious cat. Now, the ancient Jewish people would most certainly have had cats around them. As soon as people engaged in agriculture and started storing the grain they produce, rats turned up to eat the grain, and then wild cats turned up to eat the rats. Very useful for human beings, those cats. And thus, the enduring relationship between human beings and felines got started. So, why no cats in the Bible? There have been various theories about this, of course there have. Possibly the Israelites observed how much the Egyptians loved and actually even deified their cats, and so they wanted to distance themselves from such awful pagan practices. Who knows? And distrust of cats endured in Christianity into the Middle Ages. People believed that witches were assisted in their evil doing by the cats, which were their companions, their familiars. And so, black cats in particular was subjected to the most horrifying cruelty in medieval times. I won't distress you, and I won't distress myself by rehearsing the details. But this was just one side of the coin, because many people over the ages, ever since those first wild cats started feasting on the rats, many people have, of course, loved and respected and domesticated cats, choosing to live alongside these beautiful, mysterious creatures. Including, I've noticed, many religious people. Now, some of the best documentation we have of medieval times is, of course, from those great centres of medieval literacy, the monasteries. And hey, images of cats find their way into several medieval manuscripts. Little doodles, for example, in the margins of the books, which monks so laboriously hand-copied in their scriptoria. The British Library even has hand-mitten manuscripts with cat paw prints on them. Can you imagine? You've just finished the perfect page and then Tiddles jumps onto it. Dear me. And then there's a wonderful poem by an anonymous 9th century Irish monk. The poet may be anonymous, but his beloved cat isn't. Pangur Ban, it's called. And the poem describes how man and cat coexist in the monk's cell, each of them completely engrossed in their own rightful work. The cat looking out for rodents to catch, the monk trying to catch the perfect words for his writings. Now, I can't imagine a monk living in this way with a dog. Dogs are just too demanding. They're social animals. They want to relate to their human beings. But cats are more independent, sometimes even aloof, happy to lead their own lives alongside us rather than relating to us intensively all the time. And it wasn't just in the monasteries. Our own Mother Julian of Norwich is often depicted alongside her cat, which was the only animal allowed to her by the anchorine rule, the rule of anchoresses under which she lived. I love to think of that cat alongside Mother Julian, OK, Julian chose to embrace a solitary life, sealed up alone in her small cell next to the church, but not quite alone, not entirely deprived of physical contact with another living being, so important. And I hope that her cat did bring Julian comfort in her inevitable darker moments. I myself, when I sit down to prayer at home, often find my own cat, Susie, suddenly alongside me, or even on my lap. And it often feels like Susie is actually a participant in the prayer in her own quiet, utterly non-human way. And if you want to think more about the religious life of the cat itself, you just have to turn to another poem, My Cat Geoffrey, by the wonderfully exciting 18th century poet Christopher Smart. Excuse me. Poor Mr. Smart suffered from unusual mental health and was incarcerated for many years in a madhouse. Can you imagine how ghastly that would have been in the 18th century? But whilst there, he wrote a very long religious poem called Jubilate Agno, Rejoice in the Lamb. Now, we probably wouldn't attend to this poem very much at all, to be honest, if it were not for the fact that part of it is about Christopher's cat, Geoffrey. And this section is, for me, simply the best cat poetry in the entire English language. Why is it so good? 2 reasons. It observes the life, the habits of a domestic cat with impeccable accuracy. It will get any cat owner purring with delight and recognition. And secondly, the poem understands the cat's daily life as holy, religious. The cat serves and worships God and is blessed by God. I'll read you the very beginning, and you'll notice that the poem sounds like a liturgical text, like a litany, in fact. And it mentions something called musk, which I think is a herb a bit like catmint, something which the cat loves and enjoys rolling in. So I quote the poem. For I will consider my cat Geoffrey, for he is the servant of the living God, Julian daily serving him. For at the first glance of the glory of God in the east, he worships in his way. For is this done by wreathing his body 7 times round with elegant quickness. For then he leaps up to catch the musk, which is the blessing of God upon his prayer. For he rolls upon prank to work it in. The poem then goes on to describe the morning routine of the cat. He looks upon his forepaws to see if they're clean. He kicks up behind to clear away there. He sharpens his paws by wood. He washes himself. He rolls upon wash. He rubs himself against a post, and so on. And then he sets about his daily work, mousing. But let me finish with a little more of the poem from later on. I quote, "For when his day's work is done, his business more properly begins. For he keeps the Lord's watch in the night against the adversary. For he counteracts the powers of darkness by his electrical skin and glaring eyes. For he counteracts the devil, which is death, by brisking about the life." I don't think Smart was mad to write that. I think he was visionary, seeing deep into the divine presence within all life. and perhaps especially within our favourite cats. Thank you for joining me for this reflection today, and I wish you every blessing for the rest of the day.
If you would like to join us for our Lent group discussion, it's